All
Happy
right.
Monday.
Hey, it's my favorite day of the week. It's a great time to get ahead. A lot of people are laying in bed, hitting the snooze button.
I know.
Remember Kingpin Woody Harrelson with the hook, hitting the snooze button? It's a beautiful morning. Ah, yeah, it is. That's the greatest bowling movie ever made, no doubt.
I know.
Rob Browne with the best executive producer in
Ever.
the Western Hemisphere and around the world. Brendan Martin from Ocala. We got a great show today, man. Billy Roberts in Brookhaven, not Atlanta, checks in with us. Blake Mack, general manager, rumbleboxinggym.com in Memphis, played college football, made it to the last cut of the NFL, has a brother who just got a Super Bowl ring with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's going to be on with us talking college football, pro football, and the benefits of boxing and staying in shape. Also, Bo Carter, the Mount Rushmore of sports information directors, Big 12, most recently now the National Football Foundation, Baseball Writers of America, and Franz Beard, the Iron Duke. Smash subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Subscribe. You'll be alerted like Robert Weaver from Coolmore Logistics and Transportation says. Brown, he goes, every morning when y'all come on, I get this bing, and I'm tuned right into the show. Bing. Here we come. Get pen and paper handy because a lot of material to write down today.
Test later.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Billy Roberts in here with us right now, and
Billy Roberts.
I'm telling you what,
right now, and
a lot to talk about. I don't know, a lot to talk about. Billy, we're getting an echo.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We're getting an echo.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, let me speaker. A little better.
Yeah, Billy.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Billy, first off, before we get into talking college football, we're going to do a lot of that today. The Braves. You're what I call a Bravesologist. You and son-in-law Tyler Keelan, Mallory's husband over there. You watch not just the games, you watch every game. Let's talk real quick. Give us a quick snapshot of the Braves 24 because we all know how it ended in 23, and it's almost like after seeing what the Phillies did, you want the Braves to be able to just keep those hot bats going. Without Ronald Acuna, they're a different team, but you got a great take on this.
Well, I actually went to the game yesterday. My dad was in town, and we went, and it was a hot game on a Sunday, 1:30 start, but they look great. Ronaldo Lopez got the start. He's going to be in the All-Star game. He's a converted starter. He'd been a reliever with the White Sox, but the Braves signed him in the offseason and saw something in him. Maybe they could develop a third or fourth pitch. And they've done exactly that. And he's been a dominant starter, not just an adequate starter, dominant. And he won his seventh game. He looked good. Kelnick has taken over pretty well for Acuna as the leadoff hitter. He certainly is a great defender, and they've moved into center field. He's a guy they also brought in a trade in the offseason out of Seattle. And, only 24 years old. He's younger than Acuna. And he's been a number 5 overall pick of the Mets a couple of years ago. And then he got traded to Seattle. And he was supposed to be the man in Seattle. And I think the pressure was a lot on, at that time, a 22-year-old guy. But now he's, he started out in Atlanta as a number 8 hitter in the lineup. They took all the pressure off of him and basically said, you don't have to be a hero. You just need to get on base and play good defense. And I think that gave him the ability to just relax a little bit and not feel like he's got to carry the team. He's surrounded by all-stars. And he's done great. I mean, I marveled at a couple of catches he made over the weekend. He was phenomenal on Friday night. With a couple of outstanding catches in center field, over the shoulder, running with his back to the infield, heading to the wall. Just Acuna couldn't have done it any better. And then yesterday he hit a 3-run home run in a crucial part of the game to kind of break the back of the Phillies in the game yesterday. So if I had to pick the biggest revelation, the biggest surprise, it was Kelnick. People would point to Chris Sale and Lopez,
Yeah.
but those guys were known entities. They both could pitch in the upper 90s, and it was just a matter of are they healthy or not. But Kelnick is a guy that actually they've worked with, improved his swing in spring training. And, when Acuna went down, he was able to step in and take that leadoff role, which is probably more important than Acuna's defense. And he's done very well. So I like their chances. They're 8 games out now. They picked up 2 games over the weekend. They won 2 out of 3 directly from the Phillies. And rather than being 10 games out, they're 8 games out. And, it's July. It's not September. So, they should be fine.
Yeah, you don't want to peak too early, and there's a lot of baseball to play. Hey, let's bring in Blake Mack. And Blake, tap the video link. Hopefully we can get you on video. But we're going to bring – Blake, here you go, Blake. Hey.
Yes, sir.
Blake Mack, now you're from Lone Oak, Arkansas. I've been going to Lone Oak. I know this is crazy because of the Menopons over there as a bird watcher and a duck hunter since I was a little kid, okay? Because they have a lot of catfish ponds over there and it draws a lot of shorebirds there. I was in Carlisle and Little Rock back in April. You played college ball at Arkansas State. You made it further than Billy or Brendan or me or anybody else that I know to the NFL. You made it to the last cut. You got a brother that's a starter, plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, just got a ring. I want to get your take real quick. Number one, your experience as a college athlete, how valuable that was, what it's meant to you, because all we're hearing about with NIL and the portal is student athletes, all they care about, who doesn't care about money? I mean, just don't be stupid. But the relationships that you built in college, they mean a lot to you, and they still carry with you today, don't they?
Yeah, the relationships that I made in college, I encourage anybody, even if they feel like college is not a thing for them. I definitely would tell everybody to go try. It's big networking. Most of the people that I played football with, and even the connections that I made outside of the football field, I still talk to those people today.
Yeah.
They end up becoming coworkers. Like when I got done playing football, especially when you give 23 years of your life to one sport, you really don't know what you're doing once you get out of college. But the connections that I was able to make and the connections I was able to withhold throughout the time, it was easy for me to kind of be put. Like I started working for Orange Theory because I knew the owner, and it was just one of the relationships that I made during college, and it'll just help you down the road as well.
Yeah. Well, the work ethic, the discipline, working as a team and everything like that, voluntarily getting up. It's so much fun at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. But you know what? What's the alternative? The most negative time of the day, it was when you're laying on your back, hitting the snooze button again and again and again. Billy Roberts and I both went to Auburn together. He's over in Brookhaven, not Atlanta, big Braves fan. But Billy, just hearing what he said, I wish Blake could be, and he's the general manager of one of our sponsors, Rumble Boxing Gym in Memphis. And I got to tell you, Blake, we have Ben Troop and Wesley Britt on here. Wesley played at Alabama, played 5 years in the NFL. You've got a brother in the league. You've realized that there's so much more to, very few people make it in the NFL. So you got, you can make a living with your hands. You can make millions with your mind. So education's everything. What do you see right now going on in college athletics right now? The guys transferring around, they're not first team on the depth chart after spring practice. They're in the portal. Where's that going to get you?
Man, I go back and forth with this. I wish I would have been able to make a little bit of money myself when I was in for the NIL.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really can't knock anybody for trying to, get more play time, get their name in the watch list for the NFL.
Yeah.
But I also think the negative connotation to that is going to be that people don't know how to work through things. Especially me. Like I didn't know football was my calling, but my coaches knew, and my coaches would absolutely not let me transfer. And the challenges that I face in life now are, it's really nothing once you can get over the hump of, okay, maybe I'm not playing as much as I want to. Okay, maybe this coach, he may not like me, he may like somebody else. But you can become that guy if you just work through it. You can become that guy. I never seen myself as one of the guys until I finally, what do they say? They always tell you to listen to your coaching. And
Yeah.
once I finally listened to coaching and the transfer portal, it kind of negates from that. It tells you kind of don't have to listen to coaching. Maybe you can go find another coach somewhere else. It's going to be a little softer to you. And so I think that's the disconnect.
You know, funny thing, Billy, I want you to jump in, but Charles Barkley, someone said why his golf game is kind of not so great. It's because everywhere he goes, the golf pro at that club or resort, whatever, wants to give him instructions. He's had hundreds of people trying to instruct him. And where does that get you? Billy, jump in here.
Well, I think that, like Blake mentioned, the chance to make some money, at any point, that's America. That's what we all believe in. If there's an opportunity for you to have a skill that people will pay to watch, or a talent that people need to procure, and you'll do it for X amount of dollars, why not? So I think it's a fundamentally good thing. And also, we pay attention to guys that hop around and are looking for a quote unquote better fit. But, as a guy that's been married before and is single now, you love an opportunity to get out of a situation that maybe wasn't what you thought it was going to be, and, press the restart button. And in a lot of ways, NIL is like that. A guy's like, I'm buried on the depth chart at Oklahoma and I'm just picking a school. But Georgia Tech needs a quarterback, so I could pivot and go there and get some more exposure, get some playing time, and then think about this too, because these guys have the chance to make money in school. Maybe they don't jump to the professional ranks too early. Maybe they stick around another year, which is better for them. I'm thinking specifically at Carson Beck over at Georgia. He might be the number 1 overall pick in the draft this year. A lot of people say he's going to be. In the years past, a guy like that without NIL money to keep him in Athens, he would have immediately said, I'm going to go play in the NFL. I don't want to get hurt and risk the millions that might come my way. It's financially not prudent to remain in the college ranks. I've got to go to the NFL now. Maybe he's not developmentally ready to do it. And, he might be a second or third day guy, not a first round pick. But he's got some NIL money, and I heard a very nice car that he's driving over in Athens. So he's there, and he's going to get another year of college football. And, Georgia might win it all. Very likely that they'll be, preseason number 1 if they're not picked already. And he'll be the number 1 overall pick, most likely, as quarterback in next year's draft. So it's a good thing if you think of it that way. A guy that, can stick around and develop physically and put some more stats up, improves his draft stock. But let's say he does get hurt. Like Blake said, it would have been nice to make some money in college. Let's say that, he gets hurt, has a like a Frank Gore type injury where his future is absolutely potentially in jeopardy. You remember when Frank Gore got hurt playing in the bowl game, and it's over for this guy. He luckily went on to have a good pro career, but that was not certain at all.
And Willis McGahee too at Miami.
Yeah.
Broke his leg. Remember, Blake, you weren't even, you were a kid, the Miami-Ohio State game in 2002, tore his knee up, in a bowl game.
Gore, it was McGahee. Okay.
Yeah. Not Frank Gore.
Okay.
Frank, though, is a fellow Hurricane, so it's scary.
So anyway, McGahee, I'm sorry about that. McGahee, but he blew his knee up and it looked terrible, and if he had some NIL money, people would have thought, okay, then, the risk that he took, wasn't crazy, because a lot of people said after he got hurt, he shouldn't have been in that bowl game, right? He should have not played in it, So you hate to see that. So NIL fixes some flaws in the system, in my mind.
And I mean, Blake, I'm going to ask you this: let's say you were a kid and you got, say, $500,000 in NIL, and you were 18 or 19, would your parents advise you and say, lock it up, put it away, pretend you don't have it? I mean, you've got a brother that's in the NFL, and I'm just curious what that kind of money would do to anybody. I mean, money makes your head spin around.
Yeah, it does. Money just makes you. It just speaks louder of who you already are before you had the money. But my mom would definitely tell me to go lock it up. But I'm gonna keep a few thousand to myself. But my mom was definitely gonna tell me to lock it up. biggest thing with going to school, my mama she just wanted me to get the education. She didn't see all the successful football or anything coming, but
Yeah.
definitely if that money popped up out of anywhere, she knows me and she telling me to lock it up, go put it in Simmons.
Yeah. Simmons First Bank.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Let me ask you this a couple more minutes because I know you you've probably been up since 4 or 5. Do you get in there at 5 a.m. for those boxing classes?
Man, I open it up. I used to be on the coaching side, but now I just stick to management. I just stick to customer service.
Okay.
Like I said, football burned me out. We used to wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
5 days a week, and it's something I promised myself. It's something I promised my body. Hey, once we get done with this football, we're gonna try to cut it back on the early mornings as much as we can.
All right, tell me a couple of things real quick before we let you go. Boxing. I call it land swimming. Billy, this Rumble boxing gym, there's 48 people in these classes, and they have instructors up there that know what the hell they're doing. The people come in, they have a great workout. That's, the only easy day was yesterday is the motto. I mean, so you got to do it again. You got to prove yourself every day. But talk about the benefits of what y'all have in the program. Ann Camp, Lee, she's been a friend of mine, and I've known her parents and her for about 30 years. Proud to have them as a sponsor of our show, and they're one of our sponsors for SEC Media Days. But somebody out there listening right now, laying on the couch, they're watching the show. They're not eating ice cream, but they're eating a greasy sausage and egg biscuit that they got out of the microwave. And they say, you know what? I need to get in shape. Give them that, sell them on going to Rumble Boxing and why the benefits, and especially as an athlete. What are you, 6'3", 235? Yeah. I would not want to box. I don't want to box with you, but talk about why they need to go to Rumble Boxing.
So first and foremost, man, you just need to have hand-eye coordination. So anything that you're doing in life is gonna develop your hand-eye coordination. That was one of the first things that I picked up on when I initially came in. And it's just going to be a different way of working out, other than your typical box gyms where you go in and you don't know what you're doing. You're Googling workouts, but you don't know how to properly execute the form. We have coaches that are going to be up there. They're going to be demonstrating every movement on the weight floor. Like you're doing dumbbells, you're going to see a dumbbell be performed. If we're doing an uppercut, left jab, you're going to see an uppercut, left jab perform. So it's pretty much kind of like personal training, but in more of a group setting. And you come around and you get the same personal touches. But it's just something so different and it's so unique. It's something that you won't find anywhere else. And that's one of the things we pride ourselves in. And then it's a little edgy. We like to keep it a little edgy. It might be a little cussing going on. It's not the mom and pa. It's not the mom and pa.
It's intense. I've been.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
We try to uphold that brand, man. And you come in, we're having a party, and by the time you get done, you won't even notice that you're working out.
Yeah, Billy, it's 45-minute class. It's like 15 3-minute rounds. You're doing, dips, planks, push-ups, crunches, star jacks. Then you're doing all the dumbbell work. Then you go hit those 250-pound bags. So it's an awesome deal. I think to me, anybody out here watching, you ought to go there, try it out, and become a member. So Blake, I know you got to get there, but I'm going to stop by this week and meet you in person. I want to come by there, but I will say this: it doesn't matter what your age is. You go there, y'all have all the equipment. So tell them how they can follow you, and we'll get you back on again soon. But I really appreciate y'all being a sponsor of our show, SEC Sideline Sports Network and SECU. It means a hell of a lot.
Yes, sir. You can follow us on Rumble Boxing Gym, Midtown Memphis, Rumble Boxing Gym in Midtown Memphis on Instagram. We have our numbers going to be 901-293 or 593-2522. SEC. If I had the NIL deal when I was in college, I definitely was going to transfer out to the SEC. So I'm a big fan of the SEC. Big fan of the SEC.
Well, we're a big fan of student athletes, and you're proof of it. That you worked hard. Now you're rising up. What are you? 26?
28.
28. Okay, I got a daughter that's 28, born in '96. Okay, all right. Yeah. What's your birthday?
April 24th. So I just so I'm a fresh 20. I'm a fresh 28.
All right.
Rest
Hey,
in
look, man, let's do it again. And I'm going to come by there. The workouts, I will say this, it's mental. It's so mental, boxing, working your
Oh
whole
yeah,
body. I think it's fantastic.
100%.
How you fight is how you live. Whoever came up with that motto is a genius.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you guys for having me on.
You bet. Let's bring in Bo Carter, the Mount Rushmore of sports information directors, a proud native son of Russellville, Alabama, the Quad Cities, and a Vanderbilt graduate. Billy Roberts over in Brookhaven, right next to Atlanta. That was a cool, talking. He's the general manager of one of our sponsors. And he just said, you heard what he said. If there was NIL in today's world, I'd be all over the SEC. Bo, kind of give us, you're a baseball junkie. Billy is a Bravesologist. He goes to a lot of games and watches every one of them. Somebody asked here earlier, David Baldoff, how come the Braves don't like to pay anyone? Anyone want to take an answer at that? That's what you hear all the time from people.
Well, I think they're strategic in how they do it. I mean, when you got to pay a starting pitcher, $20-something million, and, your talent scouts determine that there's only X number of those guys out there. You got to turn relievers into starters. You got to take a chance on a former All-Star like Sale that has been hurt. And they brought him back in. He's making $17 million, but the Red Sox are paying that salary this year. And they had to trade a top prospect to get him, but Sale's going to be the starter in the All-Star game most likely. So, here's a great example of what the Braves have done with limited resources. That they could spend more, but they're trying to manage within a budget, and they're a publicly traded company at this point. Dansby Swanson was their All-Star shortstop, World Series hero, becomes a free agent. And he ends up ultimately signing with the Cubs, I think $25 million a year. And they replaced him with his backup, Arcia, who they're paying about $7 million a year. Defensively, there's not a dime's worth of difference between the two. Their metrics, their range, their arm, everything they do defensively is identical. And Arcia is not the hitter that Swanson is, but he's not far off. He might hit 20 points lower and 8 less home runs than Swanson hits in a season, but he's close enough. And the difference between 25 million and 7 million means another starting pitcher like Charlie Morton, who they're paying $22 million. So I think that it's not that they don't spend money on players; they just are savvy about where to spend it. They will spend for starting pitching, but a shortstop, even though it's a premium position defensively, there's not a lot of shortstops that are worth 25 million. And Swanson's a local Atlanta guy. They took a lot of heat in the local paper for letting him walk, quote unquote. But 25 million for a shortstop, he better be a Hall of Famer, not just an all-star, right?
Yeah. Bo, I mean, along the line of what he said, you're a member of the Baseball Writers Association of America. And Billy, much to your chagrin, that he's writing a book right now about the Phillies you've been working on. But you think about what he said. Dansby Swanson's from Marietta. You let him go to the Cubs for somebody else. You look at the successful NFL teams, Bobby Beathard, the 49ers, they maintained for about 20 years that consistency. They would get guys up to a point before they absolutely peaked, and they'd let them go and get somebody else. It's a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Moneyball, and Billy hit it just right on the head. Analytics is it's the name of the game these days. And well, when you can make those kind of moves and save $18 million on a shortstop, or find a good. I'm thinking about even Brian McCann, who's like an all-state tight end. His dad Howie's a good friend. He's one of the. I think he used to drink a case of beer before every Mississippi State home baseball game.
Woo, sounds like Larry from Shelby.
Brian overcame Howie's parentage to become like a future Hall of Fame catcher there. But anyway, we were joking around. Howie's a good friend. He knows I'm kidding around. But no, it's just very smart baseball, a good front office movement. The Rangers had a big guy, Chris Young, who's the only guy in Ivy League history that Ivy League Player of the Year in baseball and basketball, big, tall, 6'9" pitcher, a great basketball player. And he did a magnificent job with Bruce Bochy with the Rangers last year. Same sort of thing, just getting that balance and finding some offshoots. we've got a pitcher, David Robertson, Alabama grad, who's does not have an agent. He's the only guy in Major League Baseball who does not have an agent. And they picked him up, and the guy's doing a great job in middle relief this year for sort of a injured, mediocre team. So it's all in the handling, and some of it's sure luck, but a lot of it's just really great front office management and moves.
Well, the Musers on the ticket out in Dallas, their imitation of Bruce Bochy. Well, I'm 69, and cigarettes and cold beer all my life. I think I'll just keep managing till they run me off. That guy. I mean, Billy, have you heard this? Bruce Bochy, the Musers, these guys, they are the old style radio morning guys. It was just, they had these characters. Oh my God. I mean, I know you listen to them, Bo, because you're on the outer fringes of the Metroplex. I mean, you have to call it. And we're coming to the Metroplex. I'll be there this time next week, Billy. Bo and I will be sitting there in the audience at SEC Media Days. So, all right, Billy, what questions do you want me to ask? And Bo and me, proper English, Bo and me, not Bo and I.
Yes.
Bo, you're the teacher. Bo and I, or Bo and me.
Depends on if it's subjective or subjective. Bo and I, if you're using it as a subject, you're good.
Okay, Billy, what do you want us to be asking? Billy is, Billy's father, the patriarch of the great family that has 17 college degrees among 13 people, is from Key West, and he is a Florida Gator. The rest of them all went to Auburn. And his dad's like my dad. He's 88, 89 years old, mechanical engineer, still building, still designing in LaGrange, Georgia, Troup County. I love it, man. But Billy, what do you think?
Well, obviously Texas and Oklahoma finally joining the SEC. This has been years in the making, and now it's upon us. And, I've been hearing people locally here in Atlanta wondering how they're going to do. Are they really ready for the rough and tumble of the SEC? But I remember when Missouri joined the conference not all that long ago, and people thought they were going to get destroyed. And heck, they ended up being in the SEC championship game a couple of times. Right,
2 of the first 3 years. Yeah.
And nobody saw that coming, but they did. They clearly had stepped up their recruiting and, put a pretty good team out there, and they did just fine entering the SEC. So I'd love to get both of y'all's take on, which team, Oklahoma or Texas, is going to do better in their inaugural season in the SEC.
As Doug Dean said the other day, I yield my time to the senior senator from the great state of Texas, Reverend Bo Carter. Yes, sir. How we doing today, boys? Yes, sir. Foghorn Leghorns alive and well.
Speaking of that, Rob, you need to get Senator John Kennedy. He is the epitome of Foghorn Leghorn and Senator Stennis. I tell you, boys, we're going to go out and beat those Yankees in the next war.
Well, hey, John Kennedy, the senator from the great state of Louisiana, was the Sigma Nu at Vanderbilt.
A year he was president of the Student Government Association. It was funny, Bill and Rob. Sorry to go down a rabbit trail real quickly, but when he was
rabbit trails are always welcome on this show.
Like, I'm John Kennedy. I'm from Southern Mississippi. And now he's in the Senate. He's become Foghorn Leghorn and John Stennis reincarnated.
God, that man! It'd be tough to be cross-examined by him because he's so damn smart. He's slick, man. He's got a little Mr. Haney in him too. Mr. Douglas, it's only been dropped one time. He's as good as new. Mr. Haney, I can't take him. Mr. Douglas used to lose his, every time Mr. Haney came over. But it was even better when Hank Gimble, the county extension agent, came by. He couldn't remember what his name was. All right, Bo, who's ready along Billy's question? Texas.
Really. Sorry to digress, Billy. Like I said,
it's Monday morning, man.
I think those are the questions you'd ask. I honestly, I think because of Texas, just I shouldn't say this, throwing money at everything. Seeing how much you can spend and see how successful you are. And Oklahoma's got the Gaylord family, which really is sort of like Boone Pickens did at Oklahoma State. I think he gave them $400 million over a period of about 10 years. But the Gaylords are like, wow, do you need a check? We got you covered here or whatever, too. So, and I know Franz Beard's going to have some thoughts about this, too. But it's they're going to have to step it up. The SEC's, I think, more physical week to week than the Big 12. The Big 12 had some physical teams, but they liked really the passing game and sort of finesse were more their object. Oklahoma and Texas going to be pretty bruised up after even a Mississippi State game or South Carolina. I won't say Vanderbilt; they'll probably blow through them by 40 or 50 points every game. But it's the week to week grind. I think in the SEC is going to be a lot tougher than they've ever experienced.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think? A lot of people are asking this question. The minute it was announced, and Billy, you remember this. You and I was on the phone with you from Hoover at the Winfrey when they announced that Texas and OU were coming to the league. They said they'd inquired about membership. You don't make an announcement like that unless that deal's already done. That's just how it works. Y'all know that. But we talk a lot with our good friend Ken Capps. Love the guy. Football Writers Association of America. Texas has a lot of pride. So does Oklahoma. But Philip Marshall, one of my favorite writers, I love that guy. He was on the show with us Friday. And I've been saying this, and he backed. It's nice when you have a 55-year journalist backing you up. But since the Big 12 was founded, and Franz Beard writes about this in GatorBaitMedia.com a lot. Since the Big 12 was founded in 1996, Texas has won it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oklahoma has won it 14. No, 1, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 times. 14 times since 1996. In the last 14 years, Texas has had 2 double-digit win seasons in football. Oklahoma has had 11. Their bad seasons were an 8 and 9 win year. And then the first year of Brent Venables, who I think's going to be a hell of a coach. If you don't think Brent Venables is good, you didn't buy NVIDIA, okay? It is, to me, people better pay attention. I think, Billy, answer it real quick before we go to Franz Beard. I think Oklahoma has done more in the last 14 years, but based on what Texas did last year, that's a tough one because they got a lot of talent coming back. Oklahoma's got to replace all 5 starters on the offensive line, and Dylan Gabriel's gone to Oregon. So Jackson Arnold, the highest-rated offensive recruit in school history at Oklahoma, has got to come in and fill those shoes. Who's going to fill their shoes? Franz, did you write that song for George Jones?
George actually is a little bit older than all of us here on the panel.
Well, yes. He's in eternal rest now, too, though.
Yeah.
On the Grand Ole Opry stage in heaven.
Yeah.
Well, the good news about going to heaven is you get a new body, which meant he got a new liver. So, Oklahoma is coming into this league just along with Texas, and they've got eyes wide open. They know what they're in for. I mean,
yeah.
Here's the thing I've pointed out several times before. Oklahoma and Texas had the two largest stadiums in the Big 12. The only 2 stadiums in the Big 12 that had a greater capacity than 60,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And now they're coming into a league where 60,000 means you're a bottom scraper. You're down at the bottom of the barrel. You're among the single cell creatures that escaped the lagoon and evolved into human beings 46 billion years later.
But they're usually in small population states. You got to be relative.
But here's the thing that they bring. Between the two of them, 11 national championships. They have championship DNA. Yeah. And it may be very, very difficult for them in these initial 2 or 3 years. But they got the money behind them. They have the DNA going for them. And they've got a fan base that's not going to accept mediocrity. Yeah. So they've got a lot going for them. And I think the last part of it is probably the most important. And that is a fan base that will not accept mediocrity. And this is why, I look at people like Kentucky, and Kentucky sits there and, everybody says, well, gee, Mark Stoops is such a great coach. He's a good coach. But let me tell you what, he's not leaving Kentucky for one basic reason. At Kentucky, he goes 6-6 and gets a trip to the winter home of the Wildcats in Nashville at the Music City Bowl.
Yeah.
And everybody sits there and says, oh my gosh, look what Mark Stoops did. Well, you know what? If you go to the Music City Bowl at Florida or at Auburn or any of the or at LSU or something like place like that, your coach gets fired.
Or he's on the hot seat.
That's right.
All right, hold on, friends. We're gonna do rapid fire Monday. I like that take. And Billy, you heard what he just said. And friends, Billy's father is a Gator from Key West. Of the whole family, he's the Gator. The rest of them are Auburn. But Billy, you're a wise man. Along the lines of what Franz just said, and I didn't know who this Gaylord family is in Oklahoma. I do now, given the Sooner over Gaylord Family Stadium. There you go. I'm sure they have nice parking spaces there too. Billy, growing up, that football aristocracy on TV in the 70s. Keith Jackson, whoa, Nelly, Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner. There's going to be an argument by people, what's the best rivalry in the SEC? And I'm going to bet you a steamer pack of crystals that Oklahoma and Texas are going to say, we've got the best rivalry in America. Get out of our way. How's that going to be received in the footprint of the SEC?
Well, I'll tell you a new rivalry because I witnessed it with friends of mine. Several years ago, Alabama and Oklahoma played in a Sugar Bowl, and we had a call at halftime from a friend that was down in New Orleans watching the game, and he said, it's crazy. They got the same color uniforms, and both fan bases are arrogant. And, and I think that's going to be a new, rivalry that's going to become interesting to watch, with play every year, instead of playing in a bowl game every couple of years, they're going to play every year. And their fan bases are mirror images of each other in terms of expectations and arrogance from accomplishments past. And, the fan bases and the boosters will match each other dollar for dollar. So, yes, Oklahoma, Texas is a legacy rivalry, but I think Alabama, Oklahoma is one to watch going forward. I do.
Yeah. All right, we're going to keep this rapid fire going. Bo Carter, you're out there in the Metroplex, Dallas. You see it, the Texas and OU people. You mentioned it a minute ago, the weekly grind. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas lost 3 games this year.
Would not surprise me. One of the other things, too, and Franz and Billy are aware of this. Rob, we talked about this. The power base of the SEC, and Florida's sort of on the outside looking in sometimes, but Georgia and Alabama for years, and Rob, you and I are Auburn and Vanderbilt great. We've seen it happen too. Georgia and Alabama have kind of controlled the inner workings of the SEC for years and years. After the polite meetings were over here this first year that Texas and Oklahoma were in, and Texas and Oklahoma dominated the governance of the Big 12 for 25 years.
Yeah, you were in the Big 12 office.
They're going to be some real interesting. I'd love to be a fly on the wall at some of these SEC meetings in the next year or maybe 18 months just to say, like, we're not going to go to Vanderbilt, and we want Vanderbilt 3 times on our schedule next year.
Everybody needs a good homecoming opponent.
That's right. Everybody's. But Georgia's got a tough schedule. They didn't do Georgia any favors.
Yeah,
this year.
Georgia does has a tough schedule, and then I got to say, Franz, I'm gonna throw this one at you. Rivalries that are not in danger. They're always going to be rivalries, but you have these cycles. Tennessee, Alabama. Tennessee went 11 years without beating Alabama. They beat them in '82 and won 4 straight, and then '86 to '94. Alabama wins 9 straight. Then the first play of the game at Legion Field in Birmingham in 1995, Peyton Manning back at it. He's got Joey Kent, 75 yards, touchdown, give him 6. Tennessee starts another streak. Steve Spurrier. Georgia fans were besides themselves. You know that, Billy, living over there in Brookhaven, not Atlanta. But Steve Spurrier, 11-1 against Georgia. It's crazy. And now you look at, in this millennium, Auburn, Georgia. In the 50s, Auburn won the series. In the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, Auburn won it every year. The worst was like a 5-4-1. Typically, they were 6-4 against Georgia. 2000 to 2009, 4 for Auburn, 6 for Georgia. 2010 to 2019, they played twice in 2017. 3 wins for Auburn, 8 for Georgia. In this decade, 0-4. In this millennium, Georgia's 18-7 against Auburn. Auburn's got a better record in this millennium against Alabama than they do Georgia. What about as a fan? Isn't that frustrating? We're going to I'm going to keep this ball. Buddy says I'm a point guard, so I got to keep it going around fast. But what about these rivalries? Billy just brought up another one. Actually, it's a great problem to have.
No doubt about it. And I mean, sitting here in the middle of Atlanta for all these years that I've lived here, Atlanta has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now it's 7 million plus people in the metro area. And I think it's the 6th biggest metro area in the country now. So Athens, is right on the doorstep of that. They're not technically in the metro area, but they're right next to it. And all of these new high schools that have been built over the last 20 years, all of this talent that has come to Georgia from other parts of the country, because clearly a lot of people are moving here day after day. Athens, is so close to that, they couldn't help but benefit from it. And I think that along with great coaching stability that they've had that other schools have not, with Rick and Smart now, that's been, I think, a big difference. They've had a wave of talent that they could select whoever they want. And they've had coaching stability when other schools, and I'll include Auburn in this, have, just misfired a couple times. And you got to have that. I mean, Rick was let go as an average 10 wins a year when they were talking earlier about not accepting mediocrity.
Yeah.
They had a guy that was winning big time and, 10 wins a year average and wasn't good enough. And they go and get Smart to get to the next level. But a lot of schools, Auburn included, would take a coach winning 10 games a year right now. Yeah. Rick is retired, but, that just shows you stability matters. And Georgia has mastered that in this era where people hop around all the time. Yeah.
Friends, I got to ask you this. I like this from Perry Mason, one of our astute viewers, a citrus farmer down in Central Florida, which are like rice farmers over here in Arkansas and around Memphis. Franz, what's going on with Florida recruiting? Is the UAA holding up NIL and collective? Because I believe Billy can flat out recruit. Something is amiss and going on. Would love to hear your insight. Speaking of that, Billy mentioned the growth of Atlanta, about 7 million people over 22 counties. Look at school like Buford High School. I mean, I think Georgia finally got KJ Bolden from there this year, a 5-star, but so many of these kids that are moving in there, they've got they did not grow up wearing red and black, hearing their grandfather read them bedtime stories going, "Good night, grandchildren. Hunker down, you hairy little kids. What's falling from the sky? 41 seconds left. Dogs in a fight for their lives." Friends, I'm drinking some good coffee out of the Master National Retrieving Club cup.
Obviously.
But let's talk about that recruiting, because the state of Florida, and by the way, the Gators, since they went to the divisional format in 92, I dare say Alabama and Florida have been to the SEC championship game. It's not even close. I think so. But what's going on with the Gators right now in recruiting?
They're doing well, quite frankly. And Billy, here's what I know. Here's what I've observed about Billy. Billy is very selective in his recruiting. He's figured out, I believe, the number of players you have to have in the developmental stage, the ones you've got who are at the I can play stage, and the number of transfers you have to fill those gaps. Yeah. This year, for example, Florida's back end, you're going to have 3 transfers back there. Last year, Florida got killed in the area between the linebackers and between the safeties. That was kind of no man's land for Florida defenders, because I think they felt like, okay, we are required to allow this guy to catch the football in this area. 17 yards down the field, okay, if they misfire, wonderful, but if he catches it, then we can tackle him. Now they got 3 safeties in there who will flat out knock your head off. and life is going to change. Asa Turner coming in there, who is the smart guy at the safety at Washington, which had a really good defense.
Yeah.
They got a kid named DJ Douglas, who the people at Tulane, they lamented losing Michael Pratt to the NFL, but the other guy they really lamented losing was DJ Douglas. I mean, he was a stud. And then, you look at this guy, and then Trikweze Bridges, who comes over there from Oregon, who can play the slot, who can play the nickel, who can play the safety, who can actually be a fourth corner if you need it. So they've got guys, and Billy's figured this part out. And you look at how he has selectively recruited from the portal.
Yeah.
This year he got 2 tackles to go because he didn't know what Austin Barber is going to be able to do. But here's the genius of it. One of the tackles, this kid from San Diego State, who started 35 consecutive games, guess what he also plays? Right guard. So if Austin Barber comes back and is fully healthy, Trikweze Bridges can slide down to right guard, and you've got a monster offensive line. So he's doing a good job.
Well, and look, and I got to say, guys, maybe it's just me, but Trikweze Bridges, I've been following that guy. He's from Valley or Lynette. He was listed as one of the top players when he was in 9th or 10th grade for that region. But it sounds like if cough, sneezing, itchy nose, Trikweze Bridges. It sounds almost like a cold medicine. That guy has great marketability. That name, Trikweze Bridges, and he came from Oregon. Bo, what he just said, you see what's going on. Billy Napier, I think the guy can build a program. And I'm not saying I don't ever say anything. Actually, I love it when I can say something directly to somebody's face that disagrees with them because they know I'm going to be honest. But I can't buy into that narrative that Florida is a program in decline. The Super Six since 1963. Florida, Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, LSU, and Tennessee. They're the only 6 schools that have won the SEC. Florida, what do you think's going on right now in the SEC? Even with Texas and OU coming in, Florida's still 1, 2, 3 every year putting out high school players.
Yeah, like you said, well, for a while, Miami and Florida, and France remembers this, Miami and Florida State kind of, Bobby Bowden's recruiting domination or whatever. But I like Billy Napier. Look at what he did at Louisiana, and the guy, he knows football.
Yeah.
And what friend do they still have? 45 analysts down there helping them out?
They've got a lot.
The number increases every day, but they've got.
But they can coach now.
Watching. They've got a lot of backup for them, and and again, these transfer kids are going to look what. Who is it? Kirby Smart or one of the coaches said one time, Nick Saban's got his draft going this week. Needs to get a tight end and a running back and a middle linebacker or whatever. They just go out in the transfer portal draft and get a few. But that's the way it is these days. And I think Florida's going to adapt. And so much talent in there, and facilities they're getting ready to redo. The Ben Hill Griffin Stadium or whatever it's called these days, and it's they've got just everything. Great school. Scott Strickland, a good friend for many years, a wonderful AD. So they're going to have they've got everything going for them.
All right, Billy, I'm going to throw this at you. We're going to head up north in Missouri. Look, I look at you sit there and you look at Missouri last year. They go 11-2. Then and they lost some guys. They lost their defensive coordinator to LSU. And you think about Brady Cook and Luther Burden III, who was a 5-star. Luther Burden last year had like 1,212 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns. And of those 1,212 yards, 700 of them were yak, yard after contact. Offensively, Eli Drinkwitz, he can flat out coach. If the defense is good enough, why is Missouri not being mentioned as a playoff contender? Because I think their schedule alone gives them an edge.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that Drinkwitz is a good coach, and they should be right there. I mean, with the expanded playoff, they probably will be. So, yeah, no argument for me on that. I agree with you.
Yeah, friends, let's roll it around. Dr. David Arnoff over in Bay County, Panama City. Is he the Mark Richt of Florida's program? Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I was over a couple of years ago for lunch. Billy was with us, and Jimmy and I and Audrey at that Donald Ross golf course at the Athens, Georgia Country Club with Lauren Smith. And that was like being out back in the day in Beverly Hills and Hollywood with Merv Griffin. Everybody came by. Lauren, who loves you, baby? Let's do lunch. That guy's unbelievable. But what about it? I mean, Mark Richt, everyone knows he's got a lot of people respect him. I do. But I think he won in 15 years. He won close to 150 games. What is it? I think it's the mess that Dan Mullen left at Florida. It's why it's taken Billy Napier longer to have success. And I heard Friday, Philip Marshall made a good point. Pat Dye's first year at Auburn, he goes, we were 5-6. He goes, we lost 3 games, Wake Forest, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. We should have won. We should have won 8 games, he said. But, that may not have been a good thing because we may have thought we were further along than we were. And they went out and recruited that spring and got Bo Jackson and a bunch of Tommy Powell and, Randy Stokes, a bunch of really good players. But what about the timetable, Franz? You're a wise man.
Billy Napier isn't going anywhere this year or next.
Yeah.
At the end of 2025, if the Gators aren't back in sync, then he's got problems. But this year he doesn't. He's going to do well this year. Is he a Mark Richt? Well, right now, Mark Richt's a pretty good standard. But he's not. But Mark Richt is not Steve Spurrier. Yeah, and he's not Urban Meyer. And that's the standard that Florida has. Yeah. I'll go back to something I said earlier. What is in your DNA? What is in your DNA at Florida is winning. Now you look at Alabama. Alabama went through 7 coaches before they found their next Bear Bryant. Okay, they had a pocket of success with Gene Stallings. But let's face it, they had Dumbos. They had Frangione, who decided that it was better off at Western Walla Walla Technical School and School of Welding, and he left. And then you had, Little Shula and
Mark, the strip clubs before you ever coached again.
Mike Price.
Right. My friend and former colleague Bob Redmond and I went we had a speaking engagement with Urban Meyer in Pensacola, and we decided we were going to go find Destiny. So we went to the strip club where Destiny had been and asked, and they said, "Oh, she got famous. She went over there to Fort Walton Beach where they get $25 lap dances." And
man,
cross the bread.
Well, I tell you what, though, France.
He could have been a good coach. Mike Price was a good football coach.
Oh, he was. Yeah. Well, Franz, let me throw this at you. You go back from 1997 to 2007, that 11-year period, and there were some great coaches in there. I think Mike DuBose should have been given a lifetime contract. I thought Franchione was fantastic. And Mike Shula should have never been fired. It's like my friend, the late Mr. Ed Williams, engineer, wrote for the Auburn Plainsman, his final article before he graduated. He said, "And in my farewell comments, I must say that to the good people at the University of Alabama and their board of trustees, I recommend an extension of the contract to your fine football coach, Mr. J.B. Ears Whitworth." And he said, "Shug, let them win one every once in a while. They may go hire him a real coach." And dadgummit, they did. But you think about it, 11 years from 97 to 07. Think about what Alabama went through, people. Put this in perspective. 8 of those 11 years, Alabama lost 5 games or more. And in one of those years, they lost to Hawaii. Could you imagine? And Nick Saban's first year at LSU, he lost to UAB. His first year at Alabama, they lost to University of Louisiana Monroe. You know what? You can't. You know what? If you have success, the one thing Bobby Bowden told his son Terry at Auburn, he said, "Be careful about success coming so fast, so much, so soon. Just be careful about that." I mean, 21-1 his first few years, and I think what got Terry Bowden was the lack of commitment to a running game. But I don't know. Mark Richt's a pretty good standard, but at Florida, you're right. Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. I mean, those guys are like your SEAL Team 6 coaches.
See, here, let me tell you something that happened with Spurrier. Galen Hall, they had gotten off the probation, and Galen Hall had put in 3 consecutive good recruiting classes. Not, and then you get a guy like Spurrier comes in, and the critical thing I'm saying is there was a foundation. Ron Zook put in 3 consecutive good recruiting classes. Urban Meyer comes in with a foundation.
Yeah.
Billy Napier has had 2 consecutive good recruiting classes. The foundation is now in place. The Gators are going to be much improved. And it takes that. And I think people lose perspective about what it takes in the Southeastern Conference to sustain success. You have to have a foundation in there. I don't know that, for example, Eli Drinkwitz is going to be at Missouri in 2-3 years because he's a good football coach. And I think he's going to look at there and say, how am I going to sustain success when I've got the lowest budget other than Vanderbilt in the SEC? And I'm in a state that may produce 1 5-star talent every 62 years,
I got to tell you, though, about Missouri. They've got that NIL program, and a lot of other states are getting it, where they pay you as an in-state or in high school. You can start collecting your money. Billy, you were going to jump in and say something, then I want to go back to Bo, because I got a bunch of stuff I want to get in here, because this is great great conversation. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Tell friends, family, and neighbors.
You touched on Terry Bowden a minute ago. One of the things that happened while he was at Auburn, they were on probation, and he had an undefeated season, and nobody saw them on television. And he negotiated in his contract that he could put out a highlight video, and they sold it everywhere. I bought a copy of it at J&M.
Oh yeah.
He made a lot of money off of that video because they weren't on TV and everybody wanted to see the highlights. This is back in the days of VHS tapes. That's how long ago this was. Yeah. Not even TV. And he made a lot of money on that. And I think that they were a little resentful that maybe the contracting, because he was an attorney. He had a law degree. So he negotiated a pretty good contract for himself. And I think that didn't help his cause when the early success started to fade just a little bit. Among other issues, that was one of them. He did well on his contract negotiation.
I mean, you look at the 1997 SEC championship game, Auburn and Tennessee. Auburn's leading rusher for the season in that game was a guy named Rusty Williams from Moncks Corner, South Carolina, right outside of Charleston. I think was a monastery at one time. But Rusty Williams had 267 yards for the season. And I think the leading rusher was Damian Craig from Blunt down in Viger. Bo Carter, you look at things in perspective. What Fran said, from 1989 to 2009, that's a 20-year period. Florida had the best record in college football. That would include 3 national championships in that time frame. That
8
included
SEC titles.
A ton. So Bo, you start thinking about how quick people are. Bo, I think what it is people feel empowered in their own lives when they say, "Oh, that coach is on the hot seat. He's got to go." And okay, you know Scott Strickland, Bo, and you think about him at Florida. Why would he be stupid? I mean, that'd be stupid. I don't think it's that. I think coaches are going to be a lot more patient going forward with coaches, because this house settlement could be 25 or 30 million that you got to pay out. Where's this money going to come from, Bo? I mean, and you know a lot of coaches. You think about when you give a coach the good ones that are really good long term, most of them started out pretty slow.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Look at think back Dan McCarney at Iowa State. Had like 3-8, 2-9 seasons back in the old days.
Yeah.
And they gave him time, and then he took them to about 5 or 6. This was 30 years ago, but still, they need to be more patient. And Rob, you hit the nail on the head. I've seen that some schools have already said they're going to wait on building new facilities, et cetera, because their stuff is still going in the courts about the House settlement. They don't know what's going on. Trying to get our friend Senator Tuberville and Senator Kennedy and Joe Manchin in the Senate, I guess, to try to give them some sort of relief on this thing. Because if not, you're going to see a lot of major teams just either drop sports or just, who knows, pull out completely. It's really it's a scary situation, honestly.
It is. And friends, when you look at what's happening, the sports that we see today, in 2 or 3 years, we may be down to 3 or 4 sports for the men, and you're going to have an equal number for the women because of the Title IX. I hate to think track and field. If we don't have track and field, and we don't have, swimming, what's the U.S. Olympic? What are we going to do there? I mean, when you hire a student athlete to work for your company, if they didn't quit, if they stuck it out for 4 or 5 years, you're getting someone who's a proven commodity. The value of sports, they teach you the lessons. Eddie Robinson, there should be a monument. Eddie Robinson used to say this every Sunday when I was a kid. I'd watch his Sunday morning coaches show, Coach at Grambling. He'd say, football teaches the lessons of life. You get knocked down, you get back up. You get knocked down, you get back up. But when you don't get up anymore, you are done. So get up. I'm sure he added some color to that, for the remarks. Just kind of get your butt up, But I love that man. And Eddie Robinson III, his grandson, watches this show every day over in Atlanta. I met him a couple of years ago in Birmingham at the club for the Nick Saban Legacy Award, which was presented to Steve Spurrier. And Steve Melnick was the guy who went up there to introduce to Steve Spurrier. Hell of a golfer, Steve Melnick, by the way. Mm-hmm. But and Archie Manning, by the way, came in, guys. He had just had a knee replacement. Man, when Archie came walking down the aisle between the seats on both sides, when Archie walked in, I mean, everybody was like, hell, man, that's a man from Drew, Mississippi. But comment on what I just said, because I'm so wound up on this coffee, I forgot what I was saying.
I noticed.
I can't remember.
All right. Here's the thing that we tend to forget is that the NCAA has screwed things up in such a way, and they've gone to Congress, which has only screwed it up even worse. Anybody who believes that our Congress can solve a problem, I mean, we got 58 billion people pouring in through the border, and you can't find a convenience store with somebody who can speak English anymore. I mean, even when 7-Eleven, when you can go to 7-Eleven and the guy says, "Oh, how happy we are to have you here today, sir."
We got to
give me a break.
I wouldn't put it in Congress.
Congress can't solve this issue.
No.
Lane Kiffin, God bless him, has had the best idea yet. No athletic directors, no academics, put the coaches together for a week and have a daily agenda. We're going to solve this problem, this problem, this problem, and they will come up with solutions to do it. Yeah. Paying people $86 bazillion because they played in 1984 and they were the long snapper at Vanderbilt, that ain't going to cut it. I'm sorry, you know. But again, we go back to why are we in this mess? We're in this mess because we let academics run the NCAA and therefore the conferences in football. As my good friend and business partner Bill Mitchum says, People who can, people who can't teach.
Jesus. That's right.
Well,
And this is what we, at the University of Florida, we had a terrific president named John Lombardi who had the right idea. And he ends up going over to LSU. And guess who he hired? This Nick guy who was pretty darn good himself, But you look at this. You get Mark Emmert in there. Mark Emmert can't even run the convenience store. The Indian guy who can't speak English,
Well, I'm friends. I'm with you, and Bo, along the lines of what he's saying, I want to throw it to Bo and then to Billy. We think that what are the three biggest lies? Honey, I'll still respect you in the morning. The checks in the mail. Hello, I'm from the federal government, and we're here to help you and make your life less complicated.
Right.
I mean, I'm not buying any of them. I know better, but
and the fourth one, I'm smart because I have a PhD.
Yeah.
Deeper.
But I will say, when we have our good friend John Hartwell, the AD at ULM, on, I talked to John a long time Saturday morning. John's a CPA, a Citadel grad from Mobile. Being from Mobile automatically makes him cool because I love seafood. But I would love to have someone like John on there because John would have the meeting with no chairs in the room, no big, nice, luxurious boardroom with cocktails and, ahi tuna and fillets for, make everybody stand, turn the heat up to about 90. You'll get that problem solved real fast, won't you, Bo Carter?
Yeah, it's France hit it right on the head, Rob. You got unfortunately, I mean, they at some point in the 70s and 80s they did have it's Switzers and some other people were kind of running wild out there, and they had to exert some kind of control. But and then the NCAA just sort of gave in when the NIL stuff and the sports gambling stuff came in. They said, "Well, we don't have enough attorneys to work with all these things or try to fight these cases." So Katie barred the door. So they just said, "Here we go. The Wild Wild West is upon us." And boy, it's really and I'm just hoping. I'm sorry to be the gloom and doom guy on that other stuff, but I'm just hoping they can find some way to keep. I'm a giant baseball guy, and I love track. You hit it right too, Rob. What are they going to do for swimming and track and field and other sport, volleyball, et cetera? Boy, it could really take a toll on U.S. and just the opportunities for kids to get scholarships, et cetera.
Yeah, and it's so critical. Billy, we all do the Olympic sports, non-revenue, whatever you want to call them. We need them, and basically you've got a bunch of activist attorneys who have sought out activist athletes to run with this.
Right.
When Blake Mack was on in the first segment, NIL, but he values the coaching and the experiences. And Philip Marshall alluded to this Friday morning on the show. He goes, "I've yet to meet a student athlete, man or woman, who did not cherish their college experience." I mean, again, I think back to people I know that played college athletics. You pick the sport. The relationships they have with their coaches. When Ronald Reagan was president, he used to talk about his old coach at Eureka College in Illinois. And the article, it was in Athlon's football magazine back in the early 80s when he was president in his first term. He said, "I still call him coach." I mean, that's and you think about what's his, Marion Robertson, or Morrison, the guy from right around Des Moines, Iowa, went out west and was a pretty good football player for Southern Cal and got hurt. And one of the USC supporters took an interest in him and let him be a prop guy on the set. And that was John Wayne. They changed his name, student athlete. George Klein used to tell me when Elvis would go out there, and George would be in WHBQ studios when I'd get over there to do the show for years with Jeff Weinberger. He said, "Rob, we'd go out there to do a movie with Elvis, and all the people on the sets in Hollywood were USC and UCLA football players." I mean, how many of them, who was the famous Alabama guy from the golly, it wasn't Red West, was it?
Johnny Mack Brown.
Johnny Mack Brown, yeah. Think about we're gonna figure it out. But Billy, we're gonna wrap it up now. But I just think what I see going on is we're getting closer to the games. We're 54 days away from the start. If you're keeping up with that, that's 1,296 hours, if anybody's keeping up with that. And I am. But Billy, once the games start, all this, you know what goes out the window. Play ball. Let's play too.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, the off season is when, the administrators and the lawyers, have their moment. That's their, championship season, and the real games will kick off. But I want to go back to, the NIL discussion one more time. The real reason the NCAA, kind of hasn't figured out their relevancy or what to do is the collective terror of the university presidents and the NCAA of these players. Without NIL, they're going to agitate to be employees of the university. And if they're that, they can form a union. And if they have a union, they can collectively bargain and they can go on strike.
Yeah.
Things that unions do to get their way. And that's why this Wild West situation is being permitted, because it's better than the alternative, which is making these guys and girls employees of the university. The NCAA and the college administrators don't have an answer for that. So they're like, the NIL, we're not going to put any guardrails on it because we don't know where to do it or how to do it.
Yeah. Somebody's got to take a stand. Look, we've run out of time. With a little bit of extra innings here tonight. Bo Carter, Franz Beard, Billy Roberts, Rob Browne, Brendan Martin, executive producer. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We're the most blessed country in the history of the world. Don't ever forget that. Go out and make great things happen every day, because we have opportunities. Don't let them slip through your hands. See you in the morning, folks. And watch the Buddy Martin Show tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday. Always watch it. It's great stuff.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal, and the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.